From the nation's capital, Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. A weekly discussion about the federal issues most important to Nevada. And now, from Washington, D.C., here's Marilee Joyce.
And good day to you. I'm Marilee Joyce, and this is Eye on Washington, the only statewide Nevada news program produced in Washington, D.C. Every week, Eye on Washington takes you straight to Capitol Hill for a discussion with Nevada's delegation and other leaders about the federal matters that matter to you. Today's topic, Mr. Amodei goes to Washington. We'll tell you what Nevada's newest congressman wants to accomplish for Nevada and for Nevadans. And he is my special guest today, of course, Nevada U.S. Congressman Mark Amodei. And welcome to Washington, and welcome to Eye on Washington.
Thanks, Marilee.
Thanks for being here. Well, he was named Outstanding Freshman Legislator when he started his political career as a Nevada Assemblyman in 1996. And today on Eye on Washington, we'll tell you Congressman Amodei's priorities as he serves you on the Hill. We'll tell you why he says partisanship has no place when it comes to meeting your needs. And we'll tell you if he has any outstanding ideas on how to best turn around Nevada's still struggling economy, as well as on some other top issues facing Nevada and the nation this year. But let's start off with a quick introduction. Who is our newest House member? Well, Congressman Mark Amodei's move to Capitol Hill follows a past that includes practicing law, serving in the military, and 2 years in the Nevada Assembly, and then in 12 in the Senate. Before politics, though, came service to the country. He earned a JD from McGeorge Law School to pay off student loans, and to pay off student loans, he decided to join the Army while studying for the bar. Upon passing, he became an Army JAG Corps officer prosecuting criminal matters. And when he returned to Nevada, he practiced law and then ran for state assemblyman, and a political career was born. While in the legislature, he served as vice chairman of the governor's task force on access to public health care. He was chairman of the Education Technology Committee. He was on the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, as well as on numerous other committees. And beginning in 2007, while in the state Senate, he served a year and a half as president of the Nevada Mining Association. Welcome to Eye on Washington again. I just hit some highlights there, but I want to just give our audience a little of your background in military law and, of course, politics. And I want to get to next the why you decided to come here. But before we do, I have to give a little trivia to our Eye on Washington audience. You and I met here back in 2007 when you were head of the Nevada Mining Association. We're right here on Eye on Washington.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me.
And why did you run for Congress? Why are you here?
You know, Marilee, it's a pretty strong identification with that part of the state, and having experienced the public service part for 14 years in the state legislature, when the opportunity arose to be part of representing Nevada at the federal level, it was something that was, I thought, was an attractive thing and an opportunity in a time that's a pretty challenging time for the state on a lot of fronts.
You know, you're in the seat formerly held by now Senator Dean Heller, who was appointed to the seat by the governor when it became open with Senator Ensign resigned. Now that's District 2. And it covers a lot of land. Would you remind our audience, some who might not know, I can't imagine that many, but how big is District 2? Where is District 2? And I did read on your little biography, you like to fix trucks. I think you might get the opportunity if any break down while you're driving all around that huge area.
Yeah, actually District 2 is 16 full counties of the state and a portion of Clark County. So while right now we're divided into 3 districts with Congresswoman Berkeley, sure, Congressman Heck, and myself, it is like the 3rd largest district in the nation that is not composed of a whole state. So we're basically in all 17 counties of the state.
You know, we're going to get to the details of some of the things that you want to accomplish when we come. But I do want to know, or the details of what you hope to do, some of the promises that you made and the things that you hope to do while you're here. But I do want to know, to start off with, what are some of your initial impressions of your life as a congressman?
Well, I'm excited about the work. I am not a great traveler, so getting back and forth across the country twice a week is proving to be a bit of a challenge for me, but I'm getting better. Phenomenal responsibility, great folks that I've met in the House so far, very down to earth, many of them, so that was relaxing for me. I'm just trying to be a sponge right now and absorb a lot more than trying to put out much in terms of my colleagues.
Now, when you got here, I know it was a little bit of a rush because you had to sort of find a place to lay your head and get ready to be sworn in and to find a staff. But look, what everyone really wants to know whenever we meet a new congressperson is how'd you do in that famous office lottery? Where's your office? And tell us a little bit about that story.
Well, the only good news is, in that respect, is I didn't have to go through the lottery because of the special election scenario. I get to use Dean Heller's old office suite for the rest of his term. But I can assure you that being on the first floor of Cannon, that there are many of my colleagues who have already been in and looking around or sizing it up. If reelected in 2012, I will go into the lottery, and there are many of my colleagues who are coveting Dean Heller's old space as we speak.
You're going to figure out a way to bar that door, aren't
That's
you?
right. That's right. I could be in a trailer on the other side of the tracks, but for right now, we're doing good.
All right, well, we found out a little bit about your background and who you are. We're going to talk next on Eye on Washington about what he wants to do, and we're going to start with his top 5 priorities. That's right after this.
You're watching Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. Brought to you by the National Mining Association, the Frias Companies, Caesars Entertainment, NV Energy, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, Western Lithium Corporation, and Skyline Restaurant and Casino.
America's minerals have made us a nation of self-reliant dreamers, shaping our world and the endless ways we enjoy it. But red tape often forces us to import more than half the minerals we depend on. Minerals we already have. We don't import our dreams. Shouldn't that go for our minerals, too? The National Mining Association. Learn more at nma.org.
You already watch Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce, Nevada's only statewide program produced in Washington, D.C. But for even more news from Capitol Hill that affects you, your family, and your business, you need to read Nevada's Washington Watch, our online newsletter. In-depth reporting on federal efforts that impact you. Our exclusive Inside the Beltway column, putting a microscope on Nevada's congressional delegation. Guest editorials about what Nevada needs from the Hill. Nevada's Washington Watch, your watch on Washington. Subscribe today at nevadaswashingtonwatch.com.
Heads we go, tails we stay. A coin flip. That's how it all began for what is now Nevada's largest transportation provider. Charlie Frias, with a can-do spirit and support of his loving wife Phyllis, bought ABC Union Cab in 1966. They then parlayed 5 cabs into a fleet of nearly 1,000. And today, Frias has over 2,000 employees and was recently voted Las Vegas's best company to work for. Frias, safe, reliable, simply the best.
How will new energy technology make our lives better? Will geothermal, wind, and solar energy be a bigger part of our future? Yes. And soon it will all be in our backyard. Learn more at nvenergy.com.
And welcome back to Eye on Washington, our discussion of the priorities of Nevada's newest congressional member. And we've been visiting with him, of course, Nevada U.S. Congressman Mark Amodei. Well, let's focus this segment on his top goals for Nevadans, both immediately and overall for the rest of this congressional session. And let's begin by telling you which issues he focused most on during the campaign. The issues page of Amodei for Congress lists his top 5, the issues he said would be big priorities here on the Hill. We'll give you 4 here and the 5th in our next segment. Tops is what he calls tax fairness. He pledged to advocate for changes in federal tax and spending policy, saying he wants to reduce the burden on struggling families and on small businesses. Next up, energy policy. The congressman said he'd seek to repeal the moratorium on oil drilling on the Outer Continental Shelf and the Arctic coastal plain, and to roll back expansions and regulations that he says prevent needed increases in U.S. oil refinery capacity. Under healthcare reform, he says he supports a review of our healthcare delivery system, the goal being to reduce costs while increasing access to care. Other health goals include finding solutions to ever-increasing prescription drug costs and to both escalating insurance costs or looking for solutions to escalating insurance costs and what he terms lawsuit abuse. And then there's national security. My guest wants troop funding to be a priority in the Pentagon budget and for the securing of our nation's borders to be, quote, a necessary first step to enacting a rational immigration policy. And Congressman, I want to start with taxes. You've called for making the Bush-era tax cuts permanent, doing away with the estate tax, holding on to the mortgage interest deduction, and reducing marginal tax rates. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, when you look at where our economy is, Marilee, and you look at what's worked in the past and what hasn't worked, especially in the most recent past, all of those proposals seem pretty intuitive. And that is, the economy is driven by private sector health. So I think all of those things that you've described that we had on our website are things that go directly to encouraging private sector stability, predictability, and providing the foundation to create more jobs, more economic activity, and create a lasting coming out of the recession in terms of the private sector struggling, instead of threats of more taxes, threats of more regulations, and things that frankly cost more money to do business and hire people.
The battle on the Hill, as far as spending cuts and increasing taxes, it's obviously you've certainly watched it from Nevada, and now you're, I don't want to say in the middle of it yourself, but you're in the middle of it geographically, being here on the Hill. What are your thoughts on that, and what are your thoughts on how to try to solve that and kind of bring that together?
Well, you know, we talked a lot in the campaign about tell the truth about the budget and tell the truth about the debt. And I don't think the truth is Democrat or Republican. The truth is this, is I don't think you can tax your way out of it, and I don't think you can cut your way out of it. But I do think when you look back the last time we were balanced during the Clinton administration, that was because gross domestic product was growing 1 or 2 points a year for 4 or 5 years. That produces increased tax revenues to the tune of $500 billion to $750 billion for every point GDP grows. That's existing tax structure. So I think if you say, listen, we're going to do things which encourage the growth of GDP, we're going to make some cuts. You know, Marilee, nobody talks about the federal government budget has increased 40% over the last 6 years. So a combination of cuts and making that private sector more lucrative in terms of producing tax revenues, I think is the answer. Additional revenue measures, though, at this time are counterintuitive both in a recessionary sense, but also when you look at what's happened, none of the proposals will balance the budget. None of them will balance the budget.
Quickly, because we're almost out of time for this segment, I want to get to just a couple of things regarding energy. Yeah. You've said that economically ailing states like Nevada, they really suffer doubly from high energy prices, first by price and then by the related further delay in the economic recovery. What, in your view, is a rational and reasonable energy policy?
Well, I think we should work towards having energy independence in the nation. We have the resources. I have a firm belief that you can use the resources responsibly, so using them is not by definition irresponsible environmentally. And so when you talk about a state that's dependent upon people coming to it for part of its economy, and a state that has large distances between its metropolitan areas, you need to be able to transport business and commerce as economically as possible. Sure. That's why Nevada is so vulnerable to that. We have the resources to be independent. We have the resources to make our energy costs reasonable in terms of fixed energy costs, clean coal, things like that. I think we ought to be exploiting that. You know,
quickly on health care reform, you blamed escalating insurance costs and lawsuit abuse as big contributors to the high cost of medical treatment today. What's the answer here?
Well, I'll tell you what, we did tort reform in Nevada and it worked. So I don't see why we wouldn't give it a try at the federal level also.
National security, what do you see as the top needs of Nevada's fabulous bases?
Well, you know what, they are all evolving into the new mission. It's not the Warsaw Pact in Europe anymore. It's the global war on terror, if I can use a phrase that you're not supposed to. And so when we talk about that, to matriculate those missions at those installations to what the needs are for protecting the country now is something that I think all the services in the state are doing a good job of, and we need to continue to help them to do it.
Okay, when we come back, we're going to get that fifth priority.
Okay.
That's right after this.
Every day, thousands of people in northern Nevada don't get enough to eat. 1 out of 5 children in northern Nevada are hungry every night. but you can do something about it. Catholic Community Services of Northern Nevada has been providing help and creating hope in our community for more than 65 years. By donating food, time, or money, you can make a difference in a hungry person's life. When you make your generous donation to St. Vincent's Dining Room and St. Vincent's Food Pantry, you're helping to fight the scourge of hunger in Northern Nevada. In these tough economic times, now more than ever, we need to help those less fortunate. To find out how you can donate to St. Vincent's Dining Room and St. Vincent's Food Pantry, call, click, or stop by, and together we can end hunger in Northern Nevada.
Thanks to an ongoing commitment by America's mining companies, more than 2 million acres already have been reclaimed. To learn more about reclamation or other aspects of mining, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
You already watch Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce, Nevada's only statewide program produced in Washington, D.C. But for even more news from Capitol Hill that affects you, your family, and your business, you need to read Nevada's Washington Watch, our online newsletter. In-depth reporting on federal efforts that impact you. Our exclusive Inside the Beltway column, putting a microscope on Nevada's congressional delegation. Guest editorials about what Nevada needs from the Hill. Nevada's Washington Watch, your watch on Washington. Subscribe today at nevadaswashingtonwatch.com.
Heads we go, tails we stay. A coin flip. That's how it all began for what is now Nevada's largest transportation provider. Charlie Frias, with a can-do spirit and support of his loving wife Phyllis, bought ABC Union Cab in 1966. They then parlayed 5 cabs into a fleet of nearly 1,000. And today, Frias has over 2,000 employees and was recently voted Las Vegas's best company to work for. Frias, safe, reliable, simply the best.
All of us at Caesars Entertainment have something we want to say.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
We don't want you to gamble if you've had too much to drink.
You shouldn't gamble if you're lonely or depressed.
And if you're under 21, you're not allowed to play.
No.
No matter which of our casinos you come to, our message is always the same.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly. We know you're coming to our casinos to have a good time, and we always want you to leave feeling like you did.
And welcome back to Eye on Washington, our discussion with Nevada's newest congressman about his priorities as he seeks to best serve you on the Hill. And he is my guest today, Nevada U.S. Congressman Mark Amodei. Well, there was one more listing on that top issues page of our new Reps campaign website. It's simply called Nevada Comes First, and it includes a pledge to you. And that's to put your needs over partisanship when it comes to certain Nevada-centric matters. On Nevada Comes First page, it reads in part, quote, "In Congress, as was true when I was a Nevada legislator, no one should expect me to follow the party line if it's not in the best interest of the people of Nevada." The congressman listed 3 promises here. First up is water. He said he would support a federal policy that respects individual property rights, preserves traditional farming and ranching economies, and requires a fair allocation of water from the lower Colorado River. Next, mining. He vowed to protect the 1872 mining law, saying it maintains Nevada's standings as one of the largest gold producers in the world and provides good jobs and economic stability to rural Nevada. And regarding public lands, he promised to maintain reasonable access to Nevada public lands for the purposes of grazing, hunting, recreation, energy exploration, and production. And I want to get to each of these points, but again, we touched on this in our last segment. At a time when people have voiced their disgust with the partisan sniping on the Hill, and some say it leads to so little getting accomplished, you're saying when it comes to some top Nevada issues, partisanship has no place.
Well, you know what? I'm not sure what the partisanship bent would be on those issues. You know, when you talk about a state being able to be the primary arbiter of its water issues, I don't think that's Democrat or Republican. Sure. That's just states' rights, and that's a good thing. And by the way, the state has a great history of doing a responsible job of that. So when you talk about that resource issue, I don't see the opportunity for Republicans or Democrats to do their thing. On the mining issue, I think that's a pretty simple one too. The industry is very robust. The attempts in the past to change the 1872 mining law to create federal revenue out of that would have a major impact on Nevada's budget, because it would create a large new deduction before you get to net proceeds application under the Nevada law. Sure. That's something that we need to talk about and be concerned about, because I don't think it will make a huge difference for how the federal government works, but it'll make a huge financial difference for Governor Brian Sandoval putting together the budget in Nevada and the legislature when it meets again. And finally, the last one I think was energy, or public lands, which is, you know, Marilee, when your district is 85% owned by the federal government, then you have to have the landlord and the property owner, if you will, playing a major role in economic development.
Well, you said speaking of public lands, you said you'd fight to, quote, maintain reasonable access. What's reasonable? And your scope here is wide, you know, from grazing to ranching to energy explorations. What's reasonable, and what are some of your concerns?
Well, you know, reasonable is in the eye of the beholder, as we all know, but when you talk about 85% of that land mass, and you talk about agribusiness, you talk about agriculture, you talk about energy exploration, you talk about the recreation opportunities, all of those things are private sector business opportunities. And the federal government, as the owner of that land, I think needs to be more timely in its ability to respond to those requests. You're talking about the Forest Service, the Bureau of Land Management, and the Bureau of Reclamation. All of those agencies have huge impact on the private sector in all of those areas. And I think it's something where I just think it'll be a helpful, healthy thing to have somebody saying, let's make sure we're as viable as possible in terms of responding to those. You
know, I want to grab something on mining I think is important to get to. Yeah, a top issue of the National Mining Association, and I know you're friends with Hal Quinn, the head of that organization, is what he and they call a desperate need for a national mineral policy that, among other things, would greatly shorten the time it takes to get a permit. That permitting process is, you know, he says really killing him.
You know what, it can be a huge challenge. Some of the folks in Nevada have experienced decade-long time frames and even longer. And so when you talk about that from a business thing, it's like, listen.
Oh, we're losing mining companies to other countries.
How many businesses do you know that'll start a process knowing it'll take them 10 years coming out the other end, especially when you're in the commodity business? The most insidious thing is they simply don't start anymore, and that is of huge impact on rural Nevada's economy. But that economy also gets into the urban areas, like the Mary Kay Cashman's, who sells Caterpillar equipment to a lot of those folks, like the consultant community in Reno that does a lot of business with the minerals folks out the 80 and 50 corridors. So very important for our economy to have those time frames as responsibly short as possible.
We're about out of time. I do want to touch on one thing on water. A biggie has been the fair allocation of the Colorado River resources. It's been a source of contention for so long. Quickly, some views on it.
Well, you know, the Colorado River Commission is kind of our point, folks, on that issue as far as dealing with the upper and lower basin states. We have a little bit of breathing room right now because we're no longer hooking up 24,000 houses in Las Vegas each year in the growth stuff. But it is an opportunity to take stock of what resources are available in state, take stock of what's available in terms of supplying water to other people on the river. The Southern Nevada Water Authority and the Colorado River Commission are doing a good job in terms of exploring those, and my job is to help them in any way I can so that they can continue to be all that they can be in that respect.
Okay, a little on you, a little on your priorities, and next we're going to hear from someone writing a letter to us. We're going to have our mailbag segment right after this.
All of us at Caesars Entertainment have something we want to say.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly. We don't want you to gamble if you've had too much to drink.
You shouldn't gamble if you're lonely or depressed.
And if you're under 21, you're not allowed to play.
No.
No matter which of our casinos you come to, our message is always the same.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
We know you're coming to our casinos to have a good time, and we always want you to leave feeling like you did.
America's minerals have made us a nation of self-reliant dreamers, shaping our world and the endless ways we enjoy it. But red tape often forces us to import more than half the minerals we depend on. Minerals we already have. We don't import our dreams. Shouldn't that go for our minerals too? The National Mining Association. Learn more at nma.org.
You already watch Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce, Nevada's only statewide program produced in Washington, D.C. But for even more news from Capitol Hill that affects you, your family, and your business, you need to read Nevada's Washington Watch, our online newsletter. In-depth reporting on federal efforts that impact you. Our exclusive Inside the Beltway column, putting a microscope on Nevada's congressional delegation. Guest editorials about what Nevada needs from the Hill. Nevada's Washington Watch, your watch on Washington. Subscribe today at nevadaswashingtonwatch.com.
Built on a fleet of just 5 cabs bought in 1966 by founder Charlie Frias, Frias Transportation is now Nevada's largest transportation provider. Today, Frias has a fleet of nearly 1,000 vehicles and more than 2,000 employees. As an industry and community leader, Frias continues to create the future of transportation technology and management and actively supports the community, continuing the legacy of quality service in the Las Vegas Valley. Simply the best. Thanks to an ongoing commitment by America's mining companies, more than 2 million acres already have been reclaimed. To learn more about reclamation or other aspects of mining, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
We're back with our closing segment of Eye on Washington. It's our mailbag segment, and in this segment we tell you an issue that the congressional mailbag page of the Joyce Communication website has been getting a lot of correspondence about. We read one of your letters on the air, and then we invite our guests to respond to you right here. Now, Congressman, you're so new that we don't have any letters yet just to you, so I took you from our general mailbag. Sometimes people just write the whole delegation, and I have one here from Mike L. of Winnemucca, and he writes, Dear Nevada Congressman, at a time when the country needs effective legislation most, it seems that partisanship is bogging down the process more than ever before. What can be done to put aside idealistic arguments among congressional members and make some real progress for the citizens of Nevada? What do you say to Mike?
Well, tell Mike at the home of the Lowry Buckaroos that his analysis is in the ballpark. You know, the thing that comes to mind first is hopefully, and this applies in Nevada, I think it has for the most part, much of the time, but it depends on who you send, I think. I think you need to send solutions people. I think you need to send people who are capable of saying, you know, this is where we need to be and standing that ground. You look at Nevada's issues that we just talked about, and I don't think those necessarily need to be partisan or lend themselves to being partisan. But I'll tell you this, Mike, having been back here for a robust 3 weeks, you know, there are some folks who are phenomenally partisan. So you do the best you can with what you've got to work with.
All right. I think Mike will be glad to hear that, and thanks for being here today. You know, you can send a letter to one of Nevada's senators or House members. Just go to our website, joycecommunications.com, and check out more federal issues that impact Nevada while you're there. Thanks for joining us on Eye on Washington. I'm Marilee Joyce in Washington, D.C. Good day.